Welcome back to Warzone. In this video I'm going to give you some tips on how you can get better at the game and just improve your gameplay in general. But just quickly before we get into the tips, I have a goal to reach 100k subs by the end of 2020 and a lot of you are not subscribed to the channel. So head down to below the video, press the sub button, turn on notifications for when YouTube can be bothered to send them out, and share the video with your friends, family and pets. There's also a join button if you want to show extra support, with perks including 10% off all my merch. Link is below for that too. Thank you, I will see you soon. Enjoy the video. So, tip number 1, you've got to go and play some multiplayer. You can't just if you want to be good at Warzone, you can't just simply play Warzone unless you're playing a lot of it. If you are sitting there and you are playing hours and hours every day, you're naturally going to get better because practice makes perfect. But if you do want to mix things up, you don't just solely play Warzone, then jump into some multiplayer, test some different weapons, see which ones you feel comfortable with, and then build your custom loadout around that weapon. For me, it's the XRK M4. I've used a lot of it. The M4A1's the only gun in the game I have gold, so that is my custom loadout go-to weapon. Then next up, jump into a private match. You can do it in multiplayer as well, you can even do it in Warzone, but I would recommend private match because you won't have other people putting you off, but you're going to jump into a private match and test your sensitivity. I cannot tell you how important it is to be comfortable with your sensitivity, especially when you're playing a battle royale. Let's say for example, Modern Warfare, there are 20 different levels of sensitivity. If you put your sensitivity on 20 and naturally you're only comfortable at 4, you're going to have a very, very bad time. If you can be comfortable at 10 but you play on 4, then you're going to be able to speed it up, and the faster the sensitivity the better, because you can just flick onto enemies quicker. You can see enemies, you can spin round, you can do everything faster. For me personally, I play on 5. That's what I feel comfortable at, and there is no reason for me to change it. Next up is to learn the mechanics of Warzone. There are a lot of different things. You have armor plates, you have kill streaks, you have loadout drops, you have different pieces of loot, you have cash. There's a lot to it. What I would recommend if you are new to it, then I have a video on the channel which is called Warzone for Dummies. That will tell you everything from the moment you start a match to the moment you end. It's all based on the mechanics of the game mode, and it should help you out. You should be able to at least pick up a couple of tips, especially if you're new to the game mode. Next up, if you're wanting to progress in matches, then I recommend you play aggressive until you are used to the TTK, so the time to kill of the weapon you enjoy using. I would strongly recommend playing aggressive. If you're sitting around camping, this is pretty much, this tip is just for when you're starting out playing the game mode. Because there will be one stage where you're comfortable, you don't need to force yourself to play aggressive, you know the TTK of the weapon you like using, you're comfortable with the recoil, stability, accuracy, everything like that. So then you can go on, and after you are used to the weapons, then I wouldn't necessarily play aggressive. I don't like to play too aggressive, but I don't camp. I'm like an all-round, in the middle sort of player. So when you are comfortable with the weapons, then you go on to find your personal playstyle. Then next up, get used to the random weapons that you're going to find in a match. Because if you go into a building, there's a P90 or there's an Uzi. They're right next to each other, but there's a P90 and an Uzi. And the P90 is, let's just say, is green rarity, and the Uzi is just common, it's your standard white sort of loot or your grey loot. Then even if that P90 is more appealing because it's a stronger sort of rarity, it's going to be better because the colour's different, it's basically up on the tier list. If you are better with the Uzi, you've used it a lot more, you're comfortable with that gun, then just take the Uzi. You need to know which guns you're going to feel comfortable with, because there's a lot of random loot, you can't always get your custom weapons. So if you're in a building, there are 2 different weapons there, just pick up the one that you're most comfortable with. And you need to learn about the different weapons they actually put into this game mode, because not every weapon is available. For an example, if there's an M4A1 or an AK, I'm going to pick the M4A1 because I'm not comfortable with AKs. But sometimes there are situations where you're forced to use a gun that you have no idea how to use and you don't like the weapon. Next up, we have learn to be situational. There are a lot of campers in this game mode. You'll actually see in the footage there are 2 guys sat in the back of a bus. They're just laying there camping it out. A lot of players also love a rooftop. They will hold off this camping position as long as they possibly can. That's just the nature of Call of Duty. So what I do is I always run a heartbeat sensor to look for players that don't have cold-blooded. Then you can also get UAVs that will spot players that don't have ghost. Because when you're using your custom loadouts, you can use the perks as well. Next up, we have Be Quick. If you're looking to get your custom loadout fast because you don't really feel too comfortable with the standard generic loot, then you're going to need to be quick looting. Like, if you don't want to wait, there is a default loadout drop that will drop into the game, but it's not always going to spawn very close to you. If it does, there could be enemy teams that you don't actually know, like you're not aware of, you don't know they're there, and they could try and fight you for it and win, and you've just lost the entire, like, you're going to have to go back to the lobby, search for another game, because you didn't manage to get your hands on the default one. So if you're wanting to get your own custom loadout and you're wanting to do it fast, you're going to have to be quick at looting. And to be quick at looting, you're just going to have to get used to the idea of it. And not only that, there's a setting on this game so that you can tap X instead of holding it to pick things up. Although, if you're used to pressing X to reload, if you're on console, if you're on Xbox, then you're going to have to start holding it to reload. Because if you're sitting over the top of, let's just say, a pile of cash, and you simply press X, it's not going to reload. Whereas if you're sitting over the cash and you hold X once you've changed this setting, it will reload instead of picking up the cash. And not just that, you need a lot of cash because the kill streaks cost money. The loadout drops are $10,000 across all game modes. So just be as quick as you can with looting. Next up is to turn your game sound up. Like, a lot of these are pretty much generic. This video is more leaning towards beginners than it is advanced players. I mean, if you're advanced and you know a lot about Warzone, then I don't know why you would watch a video like this in the first place. But turn your game sound up, as well as hearing footsteps from it. The footsteps are very, very loud in this. The game in general is loud. But as well as hearing footsteps, you'll also hear the crates. And crates are going to give you weapons, they'll give you money. Sometimes you'll even be lucky enough to find a UAV in a crate, which is going to save you $4,500. You could then spend that $4,500 on a self-revive kit. You could get yourself a gas mask. If you add another $1,000 to it, you can get a munitions box. Always look for the crates, always loot the crates because you never know what you're going to find. Your teammate could be dead. You could be $1,000 away from like buying them back in. And that one crate that you can hear a little bit further away because you've got your game sound up higher can be the difference sometimes of getting your friend back in or not, buying kill streaks, getting loadouts. So make sure your game sound is up. Next up, and this is the penultimate one, armor is your best friend. A lot of players seem to forget about this one, but make sure that you always keep your armor topped up. It doesn't take long to apply an armor plate. If you're lucky enough to find a satchel, that will allow you to hold up to 8 plates instead of 5. If you get an armor box when you're playing in a mode besides, I don't actually know which modes they're available in. Not sure if they are available in solo, but at least in trios and quads I found armor boxes, and it will fill up your whole team with, like, you'll all have 5 armor plates. And not only that, $1,500 is not hard to find in the game. When you go to a buy station, you can buy yourself a bundle of 5 armor plates for $1,500. And then the final tip is to finish off your downed enemy. This isn't always the case. You need to be smart with this. It's all about situational awareness, knowing when is the right time to make a move. But a lot of the times you would just want to finish off your downed enemy because there are self-revive kits, so they could get back up and pop you in the face. But not only that, players like to group together. Like, there are a lot of campers, as I said, so there's going to be 2 people sat in the upstairs or on the roof of a building. They're going to be very close to each other. So players do like to group together, and a lot of people rush to get the res. If your teammate goes down, instead of being situational about it, they rush to go and revive their teammate. Although, if you down someone in the middle of the road, I wouldn't say to go and finish them off straight away, because their teammate could come running out, rushing for the res. Oh, I don't know where this guy is, but I'm going to go get my teammate back up. 2 guns are better than 1. You can then use your downed enemy as like pretty much a piece of bait. Then as soon as their teammate runs out into the middle of the road, you can kill them. If you're playing duos, there's 2 players, that's a team wipe. So a lot of it is being situational, understanding the game mode, what pieces of loot there are, knowing where to loot for the most amount of cash. Like, it's all randomly generated loot in the game, but if you know, like, there are banks in the game, they're always going to have more money in them. There will be some areas that are not really named, they're more like away from all of the named areas. They could have like 10, 12 buildings, they could be really good for loot every single game. There are different strategies to play in this, but you need to make sure you're situational. I would recommend highly to put your sound up, and just practice makes perfect, as I said, to get comfortable with your sensitivity, test out different loadouts in multiplayer or even in Warzone if you want to, but obviously multiplayer you can just jump straight in and go pick your weapons, whereas Warzone you would have to get a custom loadout drop. But on that note, that's going to be the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and also any other tips you can add to help players out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.